fuck you doing?
Remember that name? Good Pizza with 3 Z's, baby. 3 Z's.
What's up, guys? It's your boy JP, Good Pizza. Yo, this week we got a very special guest. Actually, my lawyer came to the show to chop it up with us and really explain, how he got into the game, how he became a cannabis lawyer, and that we got tons of game for you guys. If you're a brand, if you've been thinking about starting a cannabis company, you want to know about how to set up a company, how to protect your IP, how to lease your IP, all the things that come with being a legal cannabis company. This episode's for you guys, man. Check it out, man. Get your notepads out. It's gonna be a good one. We'll see y'all on the show. Hey, what's happening, Chris? How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm doing well, doing well.
Man.
Yeah, you too, bro.
How about those fucking Mets, huh?
Fuck out of here. I'm out.
He's out. See you later. Yo, I did not know I was sitting down with a Dodgers fan today, folks.
I have my Dodgers hat in my backpack. I could throw it on for you if you want.
Wow.
I mean, LA's got the best pizza if we're talking real right now.
Whoa, bro, this guy's
I'm just kidding. That's cap.
He's
That was
coming
cap. That was
hot,
cap.
bro.
I'm just messing on that one.
No, you know what? You are coming in hot. You got the fucking OG Alien Lab shirt. I've never even seen that before,
Dude,
dog.
V1, man. I
V1.
earned this working at the when they had the little pop-ups at like Emerald Cup or got gifted one, and it's still rocking today.
It's in good fucking shape, dude.
No, nice. And yeah, I mean, they don't even use this little symbol or anything anymore.
No,
so,
bro. Tight, man. What circa? What year is that? 17, 16?
2017, 2016. Yeah, definitely before I became a lawyer, just kind of following Ted around. I mean, that was how I really got my start, right? Was just back in the day, you go to these events, the head guy, whether it was Teddy or, Seth from Straight Organics, whoever, they kind of just like walk around, meet the other heads of people, they hold court, right? And then you kind of have, I don't want to say lackeys, but like the other squad members kind of sitting in the background, smoking, talking, you'd have the grower or you'd have the packager, whatever, we'd all be hanging out. And then, Teddy would be talking and someone would ask him like, oh, like, how are you getting legal? Or how are you, setting up your corp structure? He'd be like, oh, dude, my fucking lawyer's right here. And, kind of bring me in the conversation. And that was really how I kind of got my start in the space because, as like the industry is very tight knit, right? Like,
oh yeah,
if you tell especially back in the day, you tell the wrong person where, you're operating, right? Like your space could be gone kind of thing.
Yeah, dude.
And so I learned quickly, like that first Emerald Cup, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get some clients. And so I started walking around booth to booth and like literally going up to people and be like, hey, so like, where are you guys operating out of? And this was like when people were about to be legal too. So it wasn't like the worst question to ask, but it was also at that transitionary phase where like the culture wasn't open to that. So people would be looking at me like, why the fuck you asking me that? Like, nah, dog. Like, so I wasn't getting any play. Nobody wanted to talk to me, even though I was trying to like help out, understand your corporate structure, but the questions I'm asking was very like narky compared, to what these people were used to, So I was like, all right, that play isn't working. And then kind of just being around Teddy and, a lot of people trusted him and his advice. And so being kind of in that circle, with Teddy, Carter from CADS, Drew, Green Dog, all those guys who I kind of started with, I got credence from them, and that kind of helped me get more play and more opportunities and grew from there.
Yeah. Those are good stamps to have.
Yeah.
From those people.
Yeah.
Especially back then. How did you and Ted meet?
So 2011, 2012, I would go to Coachella.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we'd meet at Coachella. So yeah, like I had my friend group, he had his friend group. Somewhere in between there was a connection. So I mean, we'd show up with like 40 people, all meet up early in the morning. We'd all, get there at like 6 a.m, all at the same car line so that we could all park in this huge long line of like 40 people and, set up all the tents, everything. And me and a couple other boys just kind of met Teddy, with the other group members, and we just hit it off. We all had similar vibes of like liking video games, kind of like some nerdy stuff, some, a little bit of off playlist rappers and stuff, like people that like didn't really know and stuff. Doubt. And so we just like connected on music and video games and nerd shit. And then every year we'd kind of see each other at Coachella again and just like be hanging out for 3 days, partying, doing that thing. And then around 2015, 2016, I was, it's called a 3L, but basically like a senior in law school, about to graduate. And Teddy hits me up. He's like, yo, it's about to be legal. We had already passed MRSA, which was the medical laws, which allowed for legal medical.
Yep.
Before that, it was what we call quasi-legal. It was like you had to have the cooperative set up, if you remember.
Yep.
And, you know, be growing for patient members, that type of thing. But it was going into actual legal. And he's like, dude, we need a lawyer. We want you to be our lawyer. And being fresh out of school, like, I didn't know, you know, jack. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. They taught me to read books and read case law, but not really how to run a business or, like, you know, do the actual legal work. And so I was like, look, I don't think I can help you like that. But I Googled the best marijuana attorney in LA, and this guy, Eric Shevin, popped up. And at the time, you know, no one was really doing business cannabis because it's obviously wasn't legal. But he was doing all criminal stuff. So, I mean, he represented a lot of the big boys, Timothy Leary, who did, you know, all the acid stuff. I mean, he represented him, Jack Hare. I mean, he was getting people like hella pounds back after getting arrested and raided. So he was known in the cannabis space. And so I hit him up, and he liked my vibe. You know, I still had long hair, tattoos, you know, so I kind of fit a little bit of the mold. And one of the funny thing is, being in law school, you know, lawyers can be very like type A, anal, kind of boring. And so I was very nervous in this interview, like all buttoned up in my suit. And, you know, as I'm leaving, like, I didn't know if I got the job or anything. He's like, oh, by the way, we drug test. And like my eyes, like, obviously like lit up, like, okay. And he's like, but you got to fail. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I will fail on my drug test. So, fail. So I was like, all right, cool. This might be the spot for me. And so when I started there, it was mostly criminal work, because that's obviously what he did. And I was kind of leading the cannabis business side of things, which again back then was like a cooperative model. So we had to set up these cooperatives for the patient members. We had all this paperwork that we'd set up for the clients. So like if they got pulled over, like you could hand the police like a transport record that says, hey, I'm following the health and safety rules of yada, yada, yada. Which actually I didn't know if it would work, because, you know, the police they're not there to be the judge and the jury, right? Like, you violate the law, they're just going to write you up and let somebody else deal with it, right?
In court.
And I was coming back from Emerald Cup, and I had my own little cooperative and paperwork, and I got pulled over, and I pulled it out on him. We had like pounds of like rosin and weed in our car, and I gave it to him, and the guy like pulled me out, looked at it. I was like, all right, get going. Like he didn't want to deal with it. He saw the paperwork. He saw like the legitimacy of it. You know, it's printed on nice paper, which, you know, for some reason matters to them. So it did work. You know, that whole model did work. But I was working with them, setting up those cooperatives, and then slowly transitioning to the legal system. Because in 2016, we passed AUMA, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, which then got merged with MRSA, the medical law, to become MALCRSA. The Medical and Adult Use of Cannabis Regulation Safety Act, which is now what pretty much governs all licensed cannabis businesses now. So just helping people transition from this like cooperative state of running for their patient members to, you know, running a real business, an LLC, a corporation, you know, going from throwing your money under your mattress or in a vault to like tracking it and recording accounts and, you know, writing down like how much you sold to, you know, basically the exact opposite of everything we've all been taught about how to run a business, right? So a lot of my work was just kind of helping these people, guide them into like the light of like what a real business is, right? Of like filing taxes and doing that stuff. And a lot of my job is doing that, is kind of shepherding people out from the hills and into, you know, public society in a way from that standpoint. And so I was doing a little bit of criminal and a little bit of this, and, you know, one of my first cases was like a rape case. And, you know, when you're an attorney, like you have to advocate for your client whether they did it or didn't, right? Like that's your job. And Jesus. I just couldn't like separate myself from the act, right? Like it's hard to do, but that's what good lawyers do. And that wasn't my thing. So I just moved straight to cannabis business, and through Teddy, through Green Dog, through all these guys that I was able to like know and grow from, I like built a business and eventually left Shevin Law Group, started my own firm in 2019, and me and my partner Dan have just been, you know, running it ever since like that.
Nice, dude. How'd you meet Dan?
We both went to law school together. Cool. So we became friends through that. He was working more of like a big law job, a traditional job where you had to bill 40 hours a week. You know, you had to wear suits every day, buttoned up. He didn't like that. You know, he didn't like the grind of that. Our job is a lot less demanding when you run your own business, and just the clientele we work with, right? Like they're a lot chiller, a lot happier. I get to write contracts to sell pounds of weed. You know, when all my other friends are, you know, doing murder cases and, working at Big Law, like getting people coffee. I'm like taking videos and grows and stuff. It was like just such a different world I was in compared to all my friends. But I think a lot of my friends in law school also knew that would be something of my life that I would get into, because I was, just a lot different than a lot of my peers in law school. I don't have really a type A personality. I'm a lot more relaxed, laid back. I'm not really aggressive in that way unless my clients are like obviously harmed, and I gotta, lay down the law like that. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
So you don't do practice criminal at all?
No, I mean, that's
Can you hop in if we needed you? Or is that
No.
or you just refer it out?
So most lawyers in any other business, right? Like, let's just say you're Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah.
If you have an employment issue, you go to an employment lawyer. If you have an IP issue, you go to an IP lawyer.
Yeah.
If you have a corporate issue, corporate lawyer.
Yeah.
Criminal matter, criminal lawyer. Like, there's a reason we're all segregated into these things, because they're very highly specialized. But with cannabis, why you kind of somewhat have to be a jack of all trades is because like there's a trust issue, right? Like, you come to me to do work, and I say, oh, you got to go to an intellectual property attorney for that issue. Like, go that way. Oh, you have an employment issue, go to this other lawyer. Like, you guys are like, what the hell am I doing here? Like,
what are we doing?
Yeah, like so I learned early on, most of my clients would rather me learn it and pay me to figure it out, and so they kind of do most of the stuff in house.
Right.
The thing about criminal activity, it's like it's way more stressful than corporate stuff in my mind, because like your freedom is on the line. Like, there's no if you miss a filing deadline, you put a period in the wrong place, all these things can jeopardize your freedom. It's just a lot more level of stress, and everything matters. And this is why it's very important to like interview your criminal attorney, is because their relationships with other attorneys, with the DA, with judges matters, because if they like you or they don't like you, you might get a more favorable deal or not. And so if you don't have those relationships, it can also be a hindrance. And it works the same way with corporate attorneys, right? Like, if there's a couple of companies that don't like me because of how I've dealt with them and how they dealt with my clients. And so I know that if I have another client doing a business deal with them, I have to let my client know, like, hey, these guys don't like me because of X, Y, Z. And those things matter. Relationships matter. But for the most part, I'm well liked, I think, and at least in my own mind, of the people in this space, and well respected in that sense.
Definitely, bro.
It's super important to interview your lawyers and understand their positions and their relationships with other groups, and
Do they play golf with the judge?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That matters.
Yeah.
That's crazy that matters, though. You know what I'm saying? But that matters. Or with the prosecutor. Are they buddy the prosecutor?
Yeah, you'll get a better deal for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's fucked up. Isn't that fucked up?
I mean, the whole criminality is a social construct. I mean, what I mean by that is, like, if you were to steal $100 from your job, you're going to jail, right? But if your employer were to forget to add $100 to your paycheck, it's just like, oh, our bad. Like, if you didn't get about it, like, nothing happens to them, right? So I mean, we choose as a society to like criminalize a lot of times poor people, or people who don't have the ability to like fight for themselves. I mean, the whole bail system is kind of ridiculous too. I mean, bail system only really harms poor people because they can't get out of prison, and then when they can't get out of jail, right, they lose their jobs, they lose their house, and it just compounds on itself. It's a side story, not really pizza related, but I believe it's like Switzerland or Sweden. They have a progressive tax system or progressive penalty system for certain fines. And so if you get a speeding ticket, it's based on a percentage of your income. What? So if you're like poor, $100 means a lot to you, right? But if you're rich, $100 means shit. So what they do is tie it to your income. So they had a speeding ticket that cost this guy like $47,000 because it was a percentage of his yearly income. And the idea being like the goal should be to harm everybody the same, right? Like if you're rich and you only get $100 ticket, like you're going to keep speeding. Like that doesn't solve the problem. A side piece of my legal space and legal ideas, I do have a lot of like social ideas and things I want to do to like help society in some way, but that'll be for future Chris to worry about and figure out.
No doubt. That's interesting shit, man. So let's take it back to story behind the story, the childhood, man. Like let's bring it back a little bit. Where did you grow up, man?
Santa Clarita, which is Six Flags, if you know it, but it's very suburban, white. So I grew up very privileged. I mean, I got pulled over a few times with weed in the car.
No problems?
No, I mean, I had my card, and I think because of a clean record in a nice neighborhood, I get somewhat special treatment.
No doubt.
You know?
No doubt.
And so because of that, I've gotten out a lot of other stuff, and you know, it's helped me along the way, because if you have records and stuff, you can't always be a lawyer. You have to like explain why that happened. So
Yeah.
that got me out of a lot of stuff. But through that town, you know, I met a lot of my friends that got me into cannabis. That's how I kind of started our first business of being a cooperative and getting cannabis for other patient members, you know,
so you used to
within
sell
our
weed,
town.
dude.
I used to provide patients with access to their medicine is what I used to do.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly
But
right.
it was funny how it came about, right? Because like back
Sorry,
in
I
the day,
talk like a Neanderthal.
no. I like to make sure,
No
just
doubt.
in case anyone at the bar is watching this, like
Goddamn
I was
right.
following the law. You know?
Goddamn right.
What's up, guys? I just want to give a quick shout out to my sponsors over at United Nutrients. Trusted by elite growers, United Nutrients delivers clean, reliable nutrition, trusted by top cannabis cultivators for enhancing plant health and maximizing yields, all while being easy to use. Affordable without compromising quality. United Nutrients offers premium nutrient solutions that remain affordable, ensuring growers get the best results without breaking the bank. Sustainability, cultivator-centered innovation. Developed through collaboration with cultivators, United Nutrients' science-backed formulations are designed specifically for cannabis, providing eco-friendly and efficient nutrient absorption to promote healthy and vigorous plants. Tell them Good Pizza sent you.
But it's funny how it started is because it was like we live in Santa Clarita. All the dispensaries, you know, in LA are in the valley. It's probably a 45-minute hour drive.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was Weed Maps, but it was a website like Weed Maps. This was like 2007, 2008, 2009. You can go on there, find dispensaries, and they would have like first patient deals. And you know, back then we didn't have a lot of money.
That was the shit.
We would just go to a new spot every time. $20, you get a gram, but you get a free gram, or
Yep.
a gram and a gram of butter, or yeah, whatever they would give you. So we would just go spot to spot to spot, getting new stuff. And after a while, you know, we'd meet some friends and be like, "Oh, can you pick me up some? Right? Oh, give me $20. Okay, give me $20. We'll get it for you. We'll get it for you." And so you're just buying more and more, and then obviously the price is decreasing, and so it kind of just like our need to like smoke just turned into a business. But we didn't make any money. We didn't do anything. Like we smoked for free is really what our
No doubt.
what our thing was.
That was
you
the
know,
business
like
model.
the more weed we got, like the more we got to smoke kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think we got as far as, or I got as far as like we had a couple friends that were growing, but I didn't have the mindset, the minutia that it takes to, you know, going through each plant. Like I like doing big stuff of like carrying the plants around, you know, making water hash, like chopping wood, like, you know, whatever, like those kind of things
Sure.
were, but like sitting in the grow rooms just wasn't for me. So that wasn't good for me. But we got to like, I think we started selling like a pound, and the first pound I went to sell, it was through a connection of a friend. And, you know, I went there, a dude pulled a gun on me, took the pound, dipped. And I was like, all right, well, you know, this isn't for me. I better, I like reading books, so I'm going to go back to school. And like,
No doubt.
you know, I just, you know, went to school, kept reading, became a lawyer. And, you know, everyone I lived with at that time who I was, you know, getting the product for, the other patient members, like they're all in the space now, whether they're growing, working
shit.
as middlemen, salesmen, brokers, Teddy, obviously. So all of us are still in the space in different,
That's cool.
you know, different areas. I just happened to like to read, and so it got me through to be a lawyer.
Nice, bro. Nice. Did you ever get into some? Did you ever get in trouble outside of that with trees as a kid, or was as far as it went? Or maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
No, I mean, I didn't really smoke until I was like 17 or 18. Like I played football and sports my whole life.
Nice.
So I wasn't really into that until after that, and I started smoking a lot.
Gotcha.
The few times I got caught, like I said, I kind of got away with it because I had a clean record. I'm sure partly because I was white in a nice neighborhood. The one time I got caught was like the first month in law school. I was living in the dorms there, and I was actually in a constitutional class where they're teaching you know, constitutional rules, Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, right? What are your rights when the police want to come in? And so we did the Fourth Amendment, and again, I'm living in the dorms, smoking with my friends. I get a knock at the door. It's the RAs, you know, the residents. That live there, and
I've gotten that knock before.
Yeah, so I open the door and they're like, "We smell weed. Like, we want to come in." I'm like, "Nah, get a warrant. Like, I know my rights, you know." So I kind of slammed the door on them, clean it up, hide the bong.
Yep.
And then a couple minutes later, some police come up and they're like, "We need to search your room." I was like, "Nope, get a warrant. I know my rights." But apparently, because I was living under the rules of the school, they can. I hadn't got this far in con law. I hadn't got to that chapter yet, but they can get an administrative warrant just through the school. And so they got that, came in, searched my stuff, took the bong. I had a nightstick at the time too, just because before I had lived in like a poor neighborhood. And so I got written up for that. But other than that, I mean, I've been pretty good with it. I don't fly with it. I don't. Especially now, it's like you can get it anywhere. There's no reason for me to risk it like that. So
let's talk about that. Flying with cannabis. What are your thoughts on that, bud?
Don't do it.
Don't do it, folks. What do you think about what happened with Caleb over at the airport, man? That was fucking crazy. Did you hear that story?
Not fully, but that's why you don't do it. I mean, it's ultimately like I know like LAX has come out and was saying like, oh, we don't really care about it. I mean, a lot of times it's organic, though they can't see it. But especially as soon as you cross a state line, that's a federal issue, and it's still federally illegal.
Sticky there.
Arguably, too, you're in the air that's governed by the feds
Federal
as well,
space.
too.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So it's questions like that that always put me in a weird scenario because I'm on the more conservative side because I am a lawyer and like I don't want me to tell you, well, nobody really cares, so go do it. And then you get busted and you're like, what the fuck, Chris? Like, you're my lawyer. So I got to kind of draw the line at the law.
Maybe that wasn't a fair question. Maybe I was just hoping you'd say, yeah, it's cool, bro.
Yeah, just,
because I'm about to take a flight
just retain me and I'll give you a little note that says you can do it. No, not yet. It's the same thing with the seeds thing too, right? Like, I don't know if you know about the seeds, but like the
seeds
DEA,
it's a bird feed.
If you want to try that one,
or it's a what do they call it? Souvenir.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've heard that one from Amsterdam too. But the thing is, like, what I think about is like, okay, you're in court in front of a federal judge, and you're like, it was bird seed. Like, it's just,
what are we doing over here?
It sounds silly,
It does sound silly.
It sounds silly, and to me, with a lot of this stuff, whether you're online, Telegram, Instagram.
Let's talk about that, dude. Telegram, Instagram trapping. Go.
I mean, I think all trapping should, I don't want to say stop. I mean, my legal answer is you shouldn't be trapping. Like, it's illegal, right? But I think the reality is, like, we are getting closer and closer to federal legalization. And if you wait till it becomes federally legal to start doing it legal, you're fucking so far behind the eight ball. It's like not even funny, right? Like, how many moonshiners are out there that that are living a life? I mean, and the moonshiners I've seen they look kind of like the old school people living on the hills in Humboldt. Like, maybe if that's like your vibe and you want to keep running with that, like, you might still be able to rock it, but it's just not like a livelihood that you're gonna make it on, because once it's federally legal, the price is gonna drop. I mean, you're gonna have people owning millions of acres in Montana being able to produce good weed for pennies on the dollar. And so if you're not in the marketplace at that point, if you don't have a brand, if you don't have goodwill amongst your consumers, where people want your product, when Philip Morris, when Big Pharma, Big Beauty, whatever, they come in here more than they already are, but when they're actually coming in here to dominate, they have no interest in buying your trap ban, because you have no real history, right? It's like if you've been a trapper these last 5 years and Philip Morris wants to give you a 6-figure salary or 7-figure salary to run their grow in Montana, and you show them your resume, and you can't put trapping on, your resume. It's not gonna really hold up that way. And so, I think now is more than ever, people need to start transitioning to the legal market in some space to show that history, to show like I can do it, or that this type of market really wants me. So yeah, and with Telegram, obviously there's issues with that.
Yeah, everybody's got their menu on Telegram.
I mean, as early as 2017, 2018, we had a case at my old firm of Bitcoin, of money laundering through Bitcoin.
Okay.
And everyone thinks, Bitcoin's not traceable. I mean, it is. They found a way as early as that's almost 8 years ago, and it's getting better now and more. So.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, people got caught for, you know, money laundering through Bitcoin. They can track it now. They can trace it a lot better now. I mean, I'm not.
So I should stop doing that.
I don't think you've ever done that.
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I'm breaking balls.
No. Yeah.
It's a joke, guys. Yeah. Okay, that's fucking scary.
But I mean, think about it. I mean, I get people following me all the time, and I'll go click on their page, and it's just like they're a trap account. Like, you know, they just got pictures of like guns and you know, mushrooms and you know, weed and all this stuff that they're doing. And it's like, dude, you've created the evidence for them. Like,
yeah, bro. What are you
granted,
doing?
most people are maybe too small for them to really care about, but the reality is like, it only takes one picture, one thing to connect you to somebody else, and you know,
or you get caught in a web.
Yeah.
You get caught in a big web that had nothing to do with you, but you were a little piece of that web, and then you got roped in.
And with the feds too, it's like it's not like LAPD or somewhere where they like see you and they try to bust you quickly. Like, they'll sit on that information. They'll wait, you know, they'll wait, and you could feel like you're fine, and then they're coming in. So,
buddy.
Yeah, I'm always really weary about people who post their stuff online. I mean, I don't really like doing business with that type of people who are open like that, but.
Gotta watch
it. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin is not as secure. Obviously, Telegram now has issues. So
are these encrypted apps, right? Can they get a warrant to read these apps, these text messages on there? Is that a thing? Like,
I mean, I think they've been trying that. That was kind of why the French police like ended up arresting this guy, is because people have been sending them warrants and like subpoenas to like give them this information. He's just been ignoring it.
Yeah.
But now he's caught, and they're trying to go after him for all these things. So it's possible that they can start, you know, pulling this. I mean, I'm not like tech savvy enough to know everything that's going on with that, but I have seen some criminal cases where, you know, they've been able to pull information that you think wouldn't be able to be pulled, you know, and the federal government has more money and more power than any of us, you know, any you know, trapper moving a couple peas or even thousands of peas, like, so I think there's so much money to be made in the future, and there's such a, you know, this is going to feed families for generations to come, and you know, you can't recreate a traditional brand, right? You can't recreate the industry that we have right now. So if you have that right now, you're going to fuck it all up by trying to make a couple extra points by selling packs across the country. And I think at this point, it's like, there's a lot of zeros to be made with big business, and if you're going to throw it all away for that, you know, maybe you weren't ready for the, you know, to put on your big boy pants and to sit at the big boy table, and you know, it's a different world. I mean, I've been in some of these meetings, I've talked to politicians, and I mean, they're moving at a different scale. I mean, we got people with money, we got people with influence, but this is another level. And like, when I look at how laws are created and you know, the lobbying that goes on, the money that, let's say, like Big Pharma has. I mean, they spend $30 million on an ad for the Super Bowl, right? Without blinking an eye. It's nothing to them.
Right.
So getting politicians in their pocket to say, hey, like, we want to create this cannabis system where if you've done illegal activity, like, you shouldn't be a part of it, right? And here's money to your campaign. Okay, like, let's write it out there, right? So it's like,
that, you know, could be waiting around the corner.
I think it is. I mean, I don't see a fair system being created. I mean, when you have so much I mean, this is potentially the next biggest industry. It's already one of the biggest industries, but it's going to be a massive industry in America. And I don't see Big Pharma, Big Beauty, Big whatever not trying to control how that rolls out in the future.
Of course.
And us as a community, as tight-knit as we are, I feel like we've pulled away from each other, because we have no unified lobbying. We have no unified voice that's trying to make change in the government. Like, we're all kind of barking from our Instagrams and getting mad at certain things, but there's no one like putting money to one kind of lobbyist or one PAC to kind of actually make change within the government and push for that. So I think some of those problems, I don't know how to fix them or who's going to fix them, but I do think Big Pharma, I hate to keep saying it, but they're going to be the ones that get to decide the rules. And if you don't understand, like, that's the flow, and that's how, I mean, any industry you look at, there's about 3 or 4 companies that own everything, right? Yep. And I don't see cannabis being much different unless the law is written differently. And so if that's the base of knowledge that you're starting with, you got to start building your company up with that thought in mind, that Big Pharma could come on. And, you know, you could be a small company like Lagunitas was, or I'm sure there's other companies that started off small and try to grow, but, you know, you're fighting against a big, powerful machine that
has endless bread.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Just want to take a quick second to shout out my sponsors over at Kayakor. Clean cocoa trusted by top cultivators. Kayakor premium grade clean cocoa core is trusted by and respected by cannabis cultivators for optimal plant health and performance. It's all about the terps and quality first before yields, which is driven through clean 100% core, which provides smooth stratification throughout the media. Sustainable and eco-friendly. Sourced from eco-friendly coconut fiber produced in our 100% sustainable operation in India. Kaya provides an environmentally conscious solution without compromising cultivation quality. Kaya washes the cocoa multiple times to ensure a clean starting base with less salinity from other cocoa manufacturers. The plastic pot is 100% biodegradable for a sustainable solution. Tailored for cannabis growth, Kaya Core products are developed from direct feedback and collaboration with top cultivators, offering superior water retention, root aeration, and nutrient absorption for healthier, more vigorous plants. They buffer the cocoa to less than 0.3 EC with calcium nitrate to provide the cultivator with a strong starting point for transplant. You will be shocked how clear the runoff is from this clean cocoa. Kaya uses coarse ground cocoa core to achieve the 70-30 blend versus perlite or chunks. Go hit up Kaya Core. Tell them Good Pizza sent you. So that's a good segue into how does one do it? Okay, I've been traditional trapping, whatever you want to call it, my whole life, my whole career. You know, I wanna get my brand license. Let's talk about how to do that and why that's important and how that will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do, and please pull out your pens, take notes. You dial 661-219-4245 and call me.
Damn right.
Get a lawyer for sure. Well, you want to form a company. I mean, I think the one thing about talking with a lawyer or someone like me is like, I need to understand what are your goals? What is your business? Because just like forming an LLC, just to form an LLC and be like, oh, I got a company, I'm good now. No, there's a game plan, right? You might have investors, or you might have wants for investors. You might want to be an IP company. You might be a plant-based touching company. You might want to do clothes or do, you got to have that conversation to understand how you build that structure up, because it's very important to start off with the structure that you want, because once you start running, once you've created that company, once you've given people equity, you can't always just like take it back. So really the first step is trying to understand, like, is an LLC better for me? Is a corporation better for me? For the most part, I'd say an LLC, there are a lot less like corporate formalities, a lot easier to work in. Starting with that, getting all your paperwork done for that, and getting your organizational structure buttoned up. So if it's you and me in a partnership, right, 50-50, okay, that's cool. Well, like, how do we deal with the company needs money? We need an infusion of 10,000. Like, who pays that? Do we share that payment? Do you pay it? Do I pay it? If I'm bringing you on to do all the growing, like, I should put that in the contract, because what happens sometimes, people just shake hands, 50-50, get the operating agreement from LegalZoom, and then, that person's like finds another job or finds another group to go in, and they're spending time at a different grow, and you're like, hey, like, I put my bread into this thing. I wanted you to work here.
Yep.
But if there's nothing in there saying, you're required to work X amount of hours, or to be the chief cultivation officer, or, you gave me equity to do the legal work, if it's not disclosed on that, there's no way to really challenge it. There's not a material term now for it. So part of what I do is obviously having those conversations with you guys and being like, okay, like, well, what is your goals? What are your roles and responsibilities? What is your expectation? And, kind of drafting up a somewhat standard operating agreement, letting you guys go through that. And then hoping that breeds and creates more conversation of, oh, we didn't even think about what happens if I die? Like, does it just go to my mom or my dad or my son, and now they're a part owner? Like, is that something the business wants? Or if I'm married and we get divorced, and now your ex-wife who hates, me is now part owner, like, does she get a voice? So it's like having those conversations that maybe, I know a lot of people want to move quickly and be like, oh, 50-50, we're good. Because that's how the game was before, right? Like, hey, I'll give you this trim and you give me the rosin, and, we'll go from there, right? Like, that was kind of the deal, very easy. But now there's a lot more on the line when you have intellectual property, when you have, money going into a licensed facility, when you have to be disclosed as an owner, right? All those things, you want to be able to hold people accountable. And especially if it's somebody you don't really know, like if you're taking money from like an investor, I try to use the example as like, a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you just start dating, right? And right in the beginning, like, things are going well, you're getting, hand jobs, blow jobs every night, everything's good.
Let's go.
It's all good. But then, 6 months down the line, like what's going on, right? Like are the dishes not being cleaned? Are, people not doing their roles and responsibilities anymore, and you got to break up. But when you're in a corporation or an LLC, like you don't just slap hands and say, okay, let's go away. There's assets involved. It's literally a marriage, right? That you're trying to figure out how things go. And so part of what I'm doing is trying to ask questions and have you guys talk about the tough scenarios, because it's easier to talk about tough scenarios when everyone's happy, right? When people are excited about the business starting and money's coming in and we're building it up and there's, you're pumped about it.
Yeah.
If you don't talk about it, then you talk about now someone's not paying their bills and you guys don't know what to do. Like you can't go back and edit the contract. You have to go what's in there. And if nothing's disclosed, nothing's explained, you're putting yourself in a really bad and tough position. So it's really about spending a good amount of time setting up if you're an LLC, it's called an operating agreement, that corporation, bylaw, shareholders, but just making sure your internal contracts lay out what you expect of everybody, and being very detailed. And as annoying as it can be, kind of going that back and forth and maybe dragging on something that you feel should take a day, it ends up taking a couple of weeks or a month, and hopefully this contract just sits in a shelf or sits in a drawer and never sees the light of the day.
Exactly.
The point is when something does go wrong, you want to be able to pull that out and say, hey, you were supposed to do this. You didn't do it. You got to give the equity back. Because if you don't have something like that, you could just have dead equity. You could try to bring on an investor and somebody owns 20%. You can't do anything about it. So getting your own house in order is like essential, because once you start bringing in other people too, if you want to bring in an investor or Philip Morris wants to buy you, this is what they're going to look at first. They're going to look at your corporation. They're going to look at your corporate structure, your operating agreement. And if that stuff's not buttoned up, it's like a handshake, right? If I meet you and you give me a dead fish handshake, I'm like, what kind of person is this? Like this is your first intro to that. And that leads more to bringing on investors. They're going to do a deep dive of your business, of your accounting records, if those aren't proper, right? If you say, hey, I own this Good Pizza trademark, but then there's no actual licensed trademark with the state or with the federal government, it looks not as clean. It looks like, more shabby, right? So, it's about taking steps and just trying to get yourself buttoned up. It's hard because it's like I feel like I'm advocating for myself because I'm like, oh, you got to pay me to get something like this done.
You do, folks.
And and with AI is getting there. AI has a potential to take my job eventually.
Really?
But I've seen people send me like contracts that they've had AI do, and it's not good. I do use AI every once in a while because you can, if you know what you're asking,
get a good body going and then just edit it.
No, I wouldn't even ask it for a body. Like one clause, you can kind of get it.
Gotcha.
You can get it to like edit and do a clause. But if it does there's too many errors.
Gotcha. You might as well write it yourself.
All the things we just talked about, right? About how relationships we want, where you're going, what you're looking for. You can't input all that into an AI system just yet.
For sure.
So it's never going to be able to protect you like that. And really how I've set up my business is I've always wanted to be your voice. So like the more I talk to you, right, the more I understand like what's important to you, so that when we go into a negotiation, I know what to lean on from a standpoint of like, well, I know JP, is going to want more money on the back end or want more ownership of the IP, right? And I kind of know how to like finesse it to get to the point of what you want and be your voice in that space.
Yeah.
So, and there's all, and with corporations, there's always a lot of stuff. We have FinCEN reporting that's due at the end of the year. Not a lot of people know what that is. There's statement informations you got to file, EINs to get, state EINs to get, employment rules. I mean, I just talked.
We got to do quarterly.
Yeah, if you're a corporation, LLC, you don't really have to do that, right? So,
well, let's talk about that. How would one determine whether to set up their cannabis business as an LLC or a C corp?
Well, I would almost never do a C corp because a C corp is double taxation. You're taxed at the corporate level, and then it gets distribution to the shareholders, so you're taxed there. So typically, you can form a C corp and then get elected to be taxed as an S corp, which is just taxation at the shareholder level. In part, it's about a conversation with your lawyer, or ideally maybe more of your accountant, of what are your end goals, right? Because it's not just a function of what just this business is, because your business cannot. Like, is your business intellectual property, right? Or is it a plant touching business? Yeah. Are you a license holding? All those things kind of matter with your tax structure, but also your own internal, your own internal revenue streams matter too, right? Like if you have multiple revenue streams, it might be different for you about even how you hold your interest in the corporation. You might have a holding company that owns your interest in these companies. So, you know, having that detailed conversation of really what is your scenario and where are you going to really dictate that. So it's not like
That's not an
always
A or
do
B
an
question.
LLC, always
Yeah,
do a corporation.
for sure.
Yeah, it's about figuring out where you want, where you're going.
Yeah, we recently discovered it probably was a better idea to set up my business as an LLC.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that now. I'm you know, phasing out the C corp. Now it's gonna be an LLC, and you know, it's a pain in the ass, bro. So you want to do that right the first time, because you know, I'm dissolving a company. I had to fucking redo the trademarks, get the trademarks sold over to the LLC. It was a relatively, it wasn't super hard, but as you know, busy business owner, that's a fucking, everything's a pain in the ass when I gotta stop what I'm doing and do that bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it costs you money. I gotta fucking pay you. I gotta pay my trademark lawyer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why he's sitting here smiling, folks. You call him, fucking clock's on, baby. But that's why he's does what he does. He's, you know what I mean, and went to school and did all that. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
and
saying? So,
like you said, you set it up right the first time. Hopefully, just you don't have to worry about it. And
Yeah.
I would say for most people, an LLC is probably the way to go, because most people are starting off small. I mean, if you're getting in, if you have 100 investors, maybe get a corporation with different shareholder levels, things like that. But
exactly.
most people, it's one or two people, friends and family.
Yeah,
and, you know,
literally.
you don't want to be bogged down by like corporate formalities. Just LLC is probably the way to go if I was gonna gamble and guess what's set up to do.
I fought him for a year on it, folks. And just the taxes just whooped my ass, man. So I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'll do the work. So yeah, that's cool, man. So let's talk about like, so as a brand, right? Let's talk to brands right now. So if you're a brand and you get licensed, right? In order to do business, if you don't have a grow, if you don't have, you know, you're not the cultivator, you have to go purchase the weed, put it in your bag and sell it. You're now you're looking at an IP agreement deal with a distro and a grow facility. So explain to people how that works. Because I know a lot of people come into this space as a brand and they want to, well, how does this work? What do we do?
Honestly, any person that calls me and they want to get in this space, that's what I tell them, because the initial financial capital you need is very limited, right? Like, if you know this, if you want to go get a license, whether you're buying someone's license or getting a license, I mean, you're talking $1 million easy to get the facility, the security. You got rent that you're maybe paying for a year while you get licensed that you can't do anything in the facility with, right? So there's all these excess costs, and you're not even operational yet. You don't even understand, like, there's an employment situation, right? You got to get a sales team, all those things. So I always advise the best thing, if you have an idea for a brand or to be in the space, is to do that IP agreement. You don't happen to have a whiteboard? I could just get in here and just like lecture and just draw up on here.
I fucking should have.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner, so I like drawing little things out here.
I dropped the ball, folks. Next episode, round
maybe,
2.
Maybe I can draw one on the side and you could like plaster it up on the
it's cool.
on the thing. Okay.
That's cool. Yeah, we can do that.
So basically, any company, whether you have a licensed facility or not, if you're doing IP, you should have this structure, because the licensed company is subject to 280E, right? Like, it's plant touching, so it's limited tax deductions, not an ideal space to earn a lot of income. But basically what that company should only be doing is growing weed, and it should be like, hey, you know, we can grow this weed, but we don't have anything to package it with. We just put it in a Ziploc. We don't know. So we're going to license this intellectual property from Good Pizza, so we could put it on this packaging and increase the value, right? So this flower maybe sells for $20 an eighth, and now all of a sudden you throw the Good Pizza on there and it's $35 or $40 an eighth, right? It increases the value. So the money paid from the license holding company up to the IP company is a 280E deduction, because it brings value to the product. So that's a benefit first and foremost for the license holder, but you're also moving money essentially from a poorly taxed business to a regular business, because an IP company is not a cannabis business. It's all it does is own intellectual property. So it can license itself to a cannabis company, it can license itself to a clothing company, it can license itself to Zoomies to sell clothes, right? Like, it could do just about anything. It's just an IP holding company. And so it can make deductions like lawyers, like accountants, the Augusta rule, you know, your phone bills, car bills, if it's all related to the business. So it can be treated like in a better tax advantaged business. So basically, assuming we start with an LLC, you have that company. In California, you can't get a trademark till you actually sold the product. So it's almost like a cart before the horse thing. You have to like license your IP, get it produced, and then you can go back and get a trademark. But the goal with the IP holding company and the IP licensing contract is that you're having that license holder agree that whatever IP you give them is yours. So at least with the person producing it, because right when you produce this, on the back it'll have a sticker, right, that says who cultivated it or distributed it, right?
On the COA, absolutely.
And if you don't have that agreement with them, that person could then go to the trademark office and say, hey, like I produced this. This is mine. It says right here. It says cultivated by company A. And now they have evidence that they produced it because it's on there. So the first importance of having an IP contract is an acknowledgement from the license holder saying, this is your IP. We acknowledge that, and we're going to pay you a percentage of the profits of this or a per package deal, whatever that is. In my mind too, as a small business, you should start off with either a gross number or a flat number. A lot of times what you'll get, as you've seen, like the people try to get you a net profits number or net revenue number. I guess real quick, the difference, right? A gross is you sell a product for $20, that goes into your gross number. A net number is you sell a product for $20, they have to take out the packaging fees, the distribution fees, rent fees, all those things, right? And you as a small business, you sold 10,000 products, and all of a sudden you get this small little royalty number, and you're like, where the hell, where did all this money go? And they're like, oh well, rent, utilities, and you're kind of trusting their accounting system to be able to distinguish between maybe your product and the 3 other products that they're working with. Yep. So you want to make it as simple as possible by doing either a gross number or a flat packaging number. And yeah, I mean, it's as simple as just kind of having that contract, and you want to have QC, right? Quality control. You want to make sure that they're not putting, smalls in there if that's not what your business is, or low quality products, or you want to be able to also control where it's maybe being sold to, because maybe you have a beef with XYZ retailer and you don't want them getting access to your product. So I mean, again, it goes into the operating agreement that we talked about earlier, where the more I know about you and the more that I understand what you're doing and what you're trying to go for, the more we can kind of tailor this agreement to really protect the things that you're worried about. Because again, I get so many contracts where people will send me, and it's like a 2-page contract that says, oh, you'll pay me 15% of gross, and call it a day. Well, it's like, well, who gets to decide where it's getting sold to? How many free samples are they allowed to give out, right? Like there's all these other little pieces that aren't talked about always when people make deals, because they're just like, oh, 15%, good, let's go, shake hands, let's get it going. But there's all these other issues, like what happens if there's a recall? Who has to pay for that? Is it a testing fee if the testing goes bad? Like who's dealing with that kind of thing? If you're providing cultivars, what happens when the deal's over? Like, do they get to keep the cultivars? How do you verify that they kept the cultivars? So part of my job is understanding every little nook and cranny that's going on, understanding how your idea of the deal is shaped, and then just making sure you guys have discussed the proper terms and we have that on paper, so that if something comes up, we can point to it and say, this is what you're doing. And if not, we're going to take you to court and protect you. And I think earlier what we were talking about, part of my job is kind of helping people transition from the traditional market to the legal market, and understanding that now, like, you can protect yourself. You can go to court and say, hey, I was helping selling weed, like, and this guy stole something from me, and I can get my money back, So there are pieces in place to protect people now.
Yeah, that's good, bro. That's good. Thank you. That was a great answer. So let's tap into an issue I've been seeing, some of my peers have been dealing with, trademarks. Why are they important? To trademark your shit. Mm-hmm. And for you personally to trademark your shit. Like, I think a good example would be, the whole Doja thing that's going on right now. You know what I'm saying? I know we can, that's still in litigation, so we can't really talk too much about it. But it's a great example, I feel like, of what the hell is going on and why you need to do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, not to speak directly on the Doja issue, but just generally, I think a lot of times what happens in this space is you might have a front man person who's willing to be put on the license or be on the tax documents or be on the company, and some people just don't want their name in things, right? Like, that's just how the industry we grew up in, right? Like, people would go rent out a cultivation facility and their buddy would be on the lease and not them, not the main person, right? I mean, that was just the structure that everyone created. And it kind of transferred into the legal space. But the problem is when you have something like that, when you file documents to the state or to the federal government that are like, hey, I own this. I'm the owner of Good Pizza. Like, now I've made a representation to the feds, and the feds have now accepted it, or the state has now accepted that as the truth. And so if you want to change that, if you want to say, hey, actually, I'm the owner, like, you're behind the 8 ball, because this assumption is they're the owner. So now you have to prove that. And not to speak too much on the Doja pack, but when, somebody else has trademarked your name, and you have to, like, sue them, you're spending probably 6 figures to have the courts say, oh, you're right, like, this was a false submission, or they lied about it, or what have you, and now it's back to, we'll give you the ownership now, but you've spent 6 figures for something that could have been yours in the very beginning. So, especially on a legal standpoint, like, it's important to have your name on stuff. Again, why it's good to have a lawyer, because I've had people come to me being like, oh, I own this brand and I own this company, and then I'll look up the company and their name is on nothing. I'll be like, do you have an operating agreement? Did you sign anything? And they'll be like, no, I've been given money, I've been doing this, I'm a part of it. Like, there's text messages, there's that, but like everything on paper shows somebody else. And the reality is like, you're fighting, you're fighting uphill when everything in the paperwork, everything is in somebody else's name. And so if you own something, you got to have agreements that say that. And so, that's why it's important to, don't trust your friends to do filings for you. Trust but verify, I guess, is the play, right?
Trust but verify.
If someone's going to go and do something, like, okay, send me the documents. If you're not signing anything, there's an issue there, because now there's, you have nothing. There's no agreement. So
So get a trademark, state and federal.
And just to speak on that, because like, it's still illegal federally, obviously. On the state level, you can get protected for cannabis, and the way trademarks work is, there's a bunch of different goods that you can get trademarked for, and so you want to trademark specifically cannabis. So if I wanted to specifically make a Good Pizza milk, I might be able to do that, because you don't own the Good Pizza for dairy products, right? Because you don't make any dairy products. So you're not really protected. So that's why it's important to get the flower marks, or if you have a dope name for a cultivar, you can get a plant trademark, the name trademark. So that way, if, let's just say you have a cut of, I don't know, Dosi, right? And you get that trademark for Dosi, if someone happens to steal it or use a different cultivar and try and call it Dosi, if you have the trademark for the plant name itself, you could send that nursery a cease and desist, and now they can't call it Dosi or whatever it is. So that's the important part on the state mark. On the federal mark, the reality is, if you have a trademark in California for Good Pizza, someone in Florida could do Good Pizza flour, and there's not really anything you could do about it unless you have the trademark there. And so the idea with going to the federal government to go get maybe a clothing mark, or if you have if you make other accessories, something like that, is now that you own a federal mark, that federal mark owns a lot of power. And in my opinion, if you can't make clothing, like, you're missing out on so much free advertisement revenue, right? Like, if you can't make the clothing, like, why even make the cannabis brand at that point, right? So if you own the clothing mark of Good Pizza in Florida, like, they might be able to make flour, but if they can't put it on t-shirts, like, I think you're losing out on a huge piece of revenue. And you'd still probably be able to do a cease and desist, because as a federal trademark, anybody who has a trademark, you should do a research to verify that you're not already infringing on someone else's mark or touching it. So by having the federal mark, it just gives you so much more protection. Excuse me, sorry.
Would you recommend going to a trademark lawyer?
I'm a trademark lawyer.
Are you really?
Yeah, I do trademarks.
Dude, I didn't know that.
What we talked about earlier, it's like being a cannabis, you kind of have to learn how to do all these little pieces, right? Because people don't want to be like, oh, I can't do that. Like, you got to go somewhere else. So, I could do federal filings, state filings all day.
You learn something new every day in the Good Pizza podcast, even if it is your lawyer. God damn. Good to know, man.
But I mean, I think, to go back a little bit to your question, is the first thing, setting up a company and getting your IP protected, and getting the trademarks is only the beginning. Like, you have to police your mark too. So doing periodic searches on Instagram to see if other people are using your name, using your website, using your mark in any other venue, because if you just let other people use it, you lose the value of your trademark and potentially get it taken away. So yeah,
for sure. What about like doing collabs with people?
Oh, I miss those.
Say I got somebody that wants to make me a rolling tray with my mark on it, or like, do you think you should just be like, yeah, let's run it, we'll just split the profit, or should you put an agreement in place?
Oh no, you got to put the agreement in place. I mean, it's like, how do you deal with costs? Who's covering the costs of producing it, of selling it, of spending the time of marketing it, right? Like, is that a shared cost? How much are you going to get? So you want to have that disclosed, but you also want the acknowledgement of the person making it, that this is your IP as well. Because like, if you have a trademark, again, for just flour, if you're making a vaporizer, or if you're making a rolling tray, like, that's not the same trademark, that's different. So having that contract of acknowledgement of like, this IP is yours, we can only use it for this limited purpose too, right? Like, you might not want them to use your Good Pizza mark in an ad with, I don't know, somebody or something you don't like, right? Because it's your mark. Like when you start attaching it to things, it can get goodwill or it can lose its value.
Yeah.
Right? And so, not to make it too political, but whether you like or don't like Trump, right? Like if it puts something on a Trump, flag or something like that, maybe that's what you want, maybe it's not what you want, but you need to disclose like what's the circle of use that person can use it as. You're not just saying, here's my mark, go make whatever you want, right? Like
I emailed you the file, run it up.
Yeah. Like you don't like you want to dictate like, hey, don't put this in an advertisement with XYZ. Don't put it on a T-shirt that's being used in a porn ad or something like that. Like whatever it is, right? Like that's your mark. You got to protect it. So you want to lay out on both sides what's expected of both people. So you do want a contract. What I meant too more about the collabs is like back in the day, before everything got legal, you would have like these collabs where you would merge your trademarks together. So there used to be one called Straight Aliens that Alien Labs did with Straight Organics, right?
Organics,
and
it
was like Seth's Straight Organics like farm.
Yeah.
Then they had like the
alien
coming.
Yeah,
so it was a merge. So it was like this. So from a trademark perspective, that's difficult because like who owns that mark?
Oh shit!
Now that's new IP, but it's part Alien Labs IP, part Straight Organics IP, and so you got to have an understanding of like, well, who owns this, and how do we create a new company and put that IP in that company? Do we share the profits? Is one person licensing into it? So again, having that conversation. Yeah, I mean, and I don't see too many of those anymore. I don't know if it's because the industry is what it is and people are maybe a little bit more separated, but there used to be ones like that all the time where they'd kind of merge together their marks and stuff, and it showed this really cool creative mixture of IP. But yeah, I mean, you got anything in business, I think you need a contract in some form and fashion. I mean, I've been in this space so long that I've seen brothers sue each other, family members, husband, wives. I mean, you never think the worst case scenario will happen, but it does sometimes. And you want to have a contract that helps explain, like, how do we get out of this? How do we unwind this? Who owns what? And that the only way to do that is by having a fully fleshed out contract. Because a 2-pager is like putting a Band-Aid on a slit wrist. Like, yes, it might help for a little bit, but like ultimately it's not going to cover the big issue. So you got to work to kind of develop a more robust agreement that really covers all the things that you're worried about.
Sure. So spend the money on the front end, getting a nice robust contract with more than 2 pages.
Yes. At least
so you don't have to spend all the money on the back end in litigation and shit like that if you actually have to go to court for shit.
I mean, if you like I said, if you go to litigation, I mean, you're talking 6 figures easily, it's not most of the time you can't sue the losing party for whatever your damages are. I mean, it depends on if you have a contract, you can have that as a term. Like if I have to sue you for a violation, you lose, you got to pay my attorney's fees.
Ooh.
So it's like, and this is what I've been telling a lot of clients too. This is a little side, but if you're doing with a retailer, a lot of people just put net 30, right? Like your invoice to a retailer, that's a contract. And so when you put net 30, the expectation is that they pay you in 30 days. But if there's no penalty attached to it, like what happens if I pay you 45 days? What happens if I pay you 60 days? There's nothing in there. So you got to have net 30 with interest and attorney's fees on collection. Because you throw attorney's fees on collection, if I write a letter to them and say, hey, FYI, you have to pay for this letter, and if I got to sue you, you're paying for that too. Like you sign that invoice, that's going to change the tune of how they pay you. Right? So you can have that term in there of losing party pays. So
interesting.
I mean,
losing party pays. I like that one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's in some ways how it should be, right? Because if they're the bad actor, if they're trying to like file for trademarks and other people's names and take money out of the company, and you got to like sue them to get it back, like why should you have to come out of your pocket to pay a lawyer? Because it's obviously not cheap.
Yeah, no
it's
doubt.
Not cheap.
No doubt. I got some ideas for our new contracts, Chris.
I mean, some of your old ones have them in there too.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Side note, always read your contracts. Read your contract, every single word. Because that's honestly part of it too, is like, I'll get contracts and I'll send them to people and they'll like call me and be like, is anything wrong with it? I'm like, you got to read it. Like you tell me, if there's something in there that you don't like, because ultimately they're not my contracts, they're your contracts. They're for you to run your business. And if you don't understand them, you won't know if someone's violating it, right? Like if you haven't read it, if you don't understand it, and it's something that it's a skill you can learn too. And the more you read these contracts, the more you'll realize they're very similar. They're very the same. And,
I've noticed that.
Yeah, a lot of them are
same jargon.
And the more you learn, the more you can pay people like me less, or more work you can do on your own, right? Because now you're knowledgeable. The more you can get into bigger meetings and talk at a higher level because now you understand the lingo, you understand what people
Sure.
are talking about. So a lot of what I try to do is kind of be almost like a teacher of trying to explain what certain terms mean. Because a lot of it's just like lingo and trying to understand, it's like it's a new language. And if you're not comfortable with it, like you got to read through it and take time because ultimately it's your business. And I'm not in your office every day, or I'm not in your grow room every day, making sure everyone's abiding by this contract. What happens is people will come to me, 2 years down the line and be like, hey, like Jeff isn't paying the rent. I feel like he was supposed to. And then I'll like go through. I'm like, yeah, he says it right here. He's supposed to pay the rent. Like, why weren't you having him do it?
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to know what's going on in these contracts just as much as I do. Because it's your business. You're the one running it. You're the one living that life. I'm just a tool in your tool belt to help you manage and set up the business.
Yeah, right on. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. What's up, guys? Just want to take a quick second to shout out my sponsors over at Grove Bags. Listen, Grove Bags are hands down the best way to store your cannabis. Forget jars, forget Mylars. Nobody does it like Grove Bags. Listen, it's a 6-layer, non-static bag. State-of-the-art technology. It's going to keep your weed fresher for longer. It keeps your cannabis between 58 and 62% humidity at all times, the optimal humidity to store cannabis. It's going to increase your shelf life, help prevent mold, weight reduction. Hands down, it's the best product out there. We don't use anything but Grove Bags at Good Pizza. And especially if your product is in stores, we all know there's some shelf life issues at the stores. This is going to keep your product lasting longer on those shelves. So when your customer goes to try it, it's going to be fresh cannabis. Listen, if you want to store your cannabis the proper way, use Grove Bags. Use promo code PIZZA with 3 Z's. That's PIZZZA. Tell them Good Pizza sent you. So what do you feel about the state of the cannabis industry right now, bro? How you feeling?
That's a very all-encompassing question.
Oh, yeah. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
Well, from a personal level, it's great. Like my business is great.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing good. I got clients.
Beautiful.
It really depends on on where businesses are. I mean, it's definitely hard from a retail standpoint to make money because of the 280E issues. So retail's a tough spot. I also think personally, any client that comes to me that wants to buy retail, I don't necessarily try to dissuade them from doing it, but I always look at everything like, okay, what's 5-10 years from now, how are we looking? And if it becomes federally legal 5-10 years from now, which is a very real possibility, like how important is that retail? Like the chances of CVS or Save-Ons or, Best Buy not being able to sell weed are slim, right? Like at that point, your retail just becomes a liquor store where, maybe people show up, but it's like, if I can get it at CVS, like why, I don't necessarily need to get to a specific retailer. So people spending $1 million, $2 million, $3 million on this asset doesn't make a lot of sense always. But again, if you're trying to be vertically integrated, using your retail to like push just your branded products and you're making more money on the back end through that, then maybe it makes sense. But I think from a long-term perspective, retail isn't what it was in 2008. I just think in the future, your retail doesn't really matter. And even from a grow perspective, like if it becomes federally legal, your grow in LA, your 5,000 square foot grow in LA where you're paying $3 a square foot is going to be really hard to compete in a marketplace where somebody can grow it in Oklahoma for pennies on the dollar and fly it anywhere they want, right?
There's that.
So, I think what's has been and has always been with cannabis is that there's so much upside and hope that if you keep doing things right, if you keep growing your business and keep making yourself more legitimate by getting trademarks, by buttoning up your company, doing the right things on the accounting side of things, and building your brand, the sky is the limit. Like, I mean, you could be talking about 9-10 figure, like $1 billion deals potentially if your brand is big enough and somebody wants it. And like, that's generational money that it'd be really hard to do anywhere else. Like you can't just like start up an airplane company, right? Like the cost to get in is too much. You can literally get into the cannabis industry with an idea for a brand and a connection to a guy with weed. Yeah. And boom, you're in. Like you could have the next, top weed. So that really excites me. And so part of my speech whenever I'm talking to someone, it's like I'm never gonna piss on anyone's idea because like if you got the drive for it, if you grinding for it and you're making the connections, you're doing the right things, like the sky is the limit. And there's just not a lot of industries you could do that. Like even just like CPG products, like a water or a drink, like the competition is so fierce there
crazy.
Because it's international. You're dealing with big business. Cannabis is so local in so many respects. You can really get into a space, dominate a market, and make zeros upon zeros at the end of the day. So that's what I love about this industry, is that there's infinite growth, and you just can't get that anywhere else. Shrooms maybe at some point, but shrooms, it's so cheap to produce.
It is.
It's like a totally different thing. Like
quick harvest too.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember back in the day, $35 an eighth, and maybe you could find, you'd find a guy with it every once in a while. But now it's like you go to an event and people are just handing you candy bars and candy bars and handfuls of mushrooms, and you're like, it's
pounds are $300-400.
It's not sustainable from the amount of people in the space. So a lot of hope and a lot of growth. So I think, again, if you have the mindset and the grind, there's generational money waiting to be had out there.
Yeah, that's a fact. And a quick word from our sponsors. This doink here was sponsored by Turkey Bag Tom and Mandala. Some nice Z we smoking here. I didn't have any Skittles before the show, so I went down the hallway and bummed a little Z off the homie Tom.
Nice.
And I was like, yo, bro, I don't mean to be that guy, but I need some Z. And just give me a couple nugs. I'll give you a shout out on the show.
Nice.
How you feel me?
Nice.
And Mandala, shout out to Mandala. He's doing some fucking great work, man. So yeah.
That's funny. That was almost what I did on my Instagram. I was like, who wants to pay me to wear their t-shirts and hat? And I was like going to sell my body as like just as a fun little thing. But I was like, I got the V1 Alien Labs. I'll rock that.
That's a tough one.
I'll rock that.
That's a tough one. I wouldn't even let anybody borrow that.
Dude, I got a couple.
I know you got a couple cats that
ones that aren't. No, I got a couple old ones that aren't even opened out of their bags. Yeah, I got a couple hidden away. Just think, it's gonna be like that old school like lunch boxes and stuff from back in the day. I'm gonna be able to pull these out in 20 years of got some rare items that nobody else has. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like I actually, my high ass accidentally did that. I double ordered like my whole Alien Labs order like last summer or some shit. The RoboCop one?
Yeah.
I had two of them.
Nice.
So I like played the one out, and then I just busted out the crispy this year, and everybody's like, damn, bro, where you get that? Like it's some new shit.
It's going to be like vintage stuff too. Like, you hold on to it for 10, 15 years.
My Alien Labs section in my closet is ridiculous. I have more Alien Labs gear than good pizza gear, bro. Like respectfully, I mean, fuck, dude. These guys are on fire. They're cranking them out. But like, it's like the homie said, it's like the Gucci of cannabis clothes.
It's because I represent so many people. Everyone gives me so many clothes that like cool. I don't wear that many clothes, So
doubt.
It's like at a certain point I'm like I don't need any more t-shirts. I don't need any more hats. I would just rather, because everyone's so generous, I'd rather you give it to somebody who like goes out and
like
wears
a fan
it all the
that
time.
really wants it, that's been dying to meet you.
Yeah. But what I do love about, because I pretty much only wear weed clothes, is just being out there and someone seeing it and be like, oh, there's like a connection you get from a random
especially
human.
Alien Labs, because you wear Alien Labs.
I mean, almost anybody. I mean, not everyone, but like, I mean, Your Highness,
Your Highness,
Sea Junkie.
Yep.
I mean, anybody. If somebody sees it, it's
dogs.
like, oh, that's tight. Like, I recognize that.
Maybe that's like all I really wear though. Is good pizza, Alien Labs, and like a couple homies.
I'd wear some good pizza, but I don't got any. So
I got you, bro. I got you. We got you covered, kid.
Nice.
We got you covered. Yeah, man. I always get that look. They're like, nice shirt, bro.
Recognize.
Yeah, you smoke. You got that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. What kind of cannabis myths can you debunk, or what do you call bullshit on out there? Like, let's spin this to like a lawyer's point of view. Like, what do you think is a big misconception? Like, no, you need to do this, you're gonna get in trouble, or something to that effect. What fucking freaks you out that people need to know? I
think the name games that people play of like, this is THCA or this is CBN, or I think that's, I get
that's
the
a hot
game.
topic.
I get the game that people are playing, but the reality is like, it sounds silly to me because I close my eyes and pretend I'm in a court of law, or I'm in front of a DEA agent and being like, no, this is THCA, but it's not THC till you burn it. Like, it just, like, they're not fucking idiots. Like, maybe the regs were written poorly, but and maybe you can get away with it. Even to that extent, maybe there's some wiggle room within the legal space. But I think anything where you're playing, especially when the market is so defined, when you're playing on both sides and you're trying to play that game a little bit, you're creating a potential liability for a potential acquisition. So if Philip Morris wants to come in and buy you, they're going to look at all your activity and they're going to have to decide, is this something we want to take on and be a part of? Does this raise issues with past tax filings? Does this raise issues with potential the whole organization, in general? Like, is this maybe now a criminal organization because of some of the things that they skirted on? And so that's something to think about, is like, what do you want to do in the future? Like, if you're just saying, fuck it, I'm here to make as much money as possible, then, play all the games you want. But if your goal is to potentially get acquired, like, every time there's an issue within your accounting, within your IP situation, with these, your online presence, the things that you're doing, if you mess something up, that could be a zero that they cross off, because now they have to decide, this is a little bit more risky than we first thought. I don't really like those games. The seed one, I think, is a big one too. What
do you think? What do you feel about selling seeds?
I don't think it's, well, so here's,
make a lot of money on seeds.
Well, yeah. Well, here's what happened that caused all the commotion, was that a lawyer reached out to the DEA and was like, hey, I don't think seeds are illegal because it doesn't meet the requirements of what you guys look for, which is THC over 0.3%. And the DEA wrote back, was like, correct. If you get pulled over with seeds and it's under 0.3%, it's not THC. And so people were like, oh, that means I'm good to go. But the DEA is just one agency. Like, yeah, it's a criminal agency, but there's other things that regulate your life. And one of those things is there's marketing rules, right? So if you go out, how do you market what those seeds are, right? You don't say they're cannabis seeds, right? Because that's almost admitting that you're legal. So
bird seed.
Hemp seed? But that's a lot. Okay, so whether it's hemp seed, bird seed, is it hemp? For it to be hemp, that would mean if I'm a real hemp farmer and I'm like, oh, you're selling hemp seeds, let me buy those hemp seeds, plant them in the ground, I grow them and they're 30% THC, I'm fucked, because now I'm not following the hemp rules, right?
No doubt.
And so now you've sold me a product that you told me was hemp, but it's not hemp. So you've breached marketing. There's marketing rules. Gotcha. So that means that they could sue you for all the damages. It'd be like if you went to a store for your grow and you're like, oh, air conditioner, I want to buy that. And you buy the air conditioner, you put it in, and all it does is blow heat and fucks up all your plants. Like, you told me this was an air conditioner, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think by mislabeling it, you're creating a massive marketing issue for yourself, or advertising violation is one thing. So yeah, I personally don't think it's the best way to run your business. I'm very I see the immense value that is coming in this space, and I think all of those little games that you try to play to make a couple points, while it may bring you goodwill, it also may bring your whole system down. Yeah. Especially the THCA one. I think that's the silliest of arguments to say that it's.
Yeah, that's a wild one.
Yeah.
A company in Houston was just on the First Smoke podcast a couple weeks ago, and they just got a huge federal indictment about a month later. Turns out maybe they weren't just selling THCA, but a lot of tax evasion, shit like that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, like, the feds don't just see you do something wrong and come after you. They'll sit back and wait, see what's going on.
They let you bury yourself.
Yeah. And again, if your goal is to make big money, if someone's opening up your books and seeing this, they're going to have to decide, is this a liability we want to take on, we want to be a part of? There's a balance to strike, because also the people in this industry didn't get to where they are by following the law exactly, right?
Allegedly.
We made it by being patient members of a cooperative, right?
That's right.
But we were still driving Lambos somehow.
Button it up for me, Chris.
You got to try. But what's different from the back in the day, though, was that everything was faceless, right? It was a Ziploc, right? Now it's my brand is on it, and then I look up the brand. There's a trademark that tells me who company is and who's on that company, right?
Yeah. There's a QR code. You come right to my website.
Yeah. It tells you sometimes where my house is, So which is another thing. If you're forming a company, do not use your house as the business address.
Yeah.
Sorry, side note.
Because that's public information.
Yeah.
It's no good. Yeah, man. So now, my friend, it's time for you to hit us with your top 3 strains of all time. We're going to go one old school, one new school, and a desert island strain. You are stuck on the island.
Okay. Old school is going to be Romulan. I had a really good summer in 2007 where my dealer just had Romulan all the time. We would just buy ounces of Romulan. Just the whole summer was amazing. I've never met anyone who grows it anymore, so I haven't come across it. So I'm sure if I smoked it now, I'd be like, what was I thinking? But,
no doubt.
But at the time though, seed, stem, you're hitting, crap bowls. So, but it was good to me. It has a lot of stuff to me. So Romulan would be in there.
Nice.
New school's tough because from in 2017, you'd get a strain and it would be the hype strain for a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Sure.
Now a hype strain is like 2 months.
Yeah, dude.
If that,
Sucks.
and it goes so quick. Yeah, it sucks, especially for breeders too, because like it takes a minute to like flesh that stuff out. But new school, I'd have to go Dos. Like,
Okay.
Also a great time in my life, just 2017, 2018, starting to be in the spot. I mean, I would consider it new school. It's probably old school now to most people, but
Yeah, no doubt. No, 17 and on is cool. People say Z for that answer. It's fine.
yeah.
Are we talking Alien Labs, Dosey?
Well, that was my
Because
entry into
those were fucking good years for Alien Labs and Dosey, though.
Yeah. Lemon cherry gelato, or the lemon gelato that they had.
The Lemon Fuel OG.
That one.
That one was crazy.
Yeah.
Still, that's in my top 3 OGs for sure. Yeah.
Not a lot of people we go on OGs anymore.
No.
I represent Marathon, Nipsey Hussle's old brand, and like what I mess with them about is because they still rock the OGs.
Hell yeah.
And, I love that. So,
That's cool.
And then the Desert Island strain. So I've been thinking about this for a long time about what I would do, and honestly, I would I feel like this is cheating maybe a little bit. I'd go more of a practical sense and ask Carter from Carter's Aromatherapy Design to make me a sunscreen, because I feel like that would be more helpful for me. Some sort of CBD sunscreen on a desert island, you know. But I feel like that might be cheating because I've never heard anybody like issue.
Nobody's ever tried that shit.
Ever try to wiggle their way around to that. So maybe that. But
listen, I'll let you bring your fucking CBD roll on.
Sunscreen.
That's
okay,
fine.
Nice.
But I need a strain from you too, bud. Ooh. So what you smoking while you putting that on?
Does it have to be flower too? Or can I be rocking rosin? No,
flower. Bro. If you were a hash maker, I'd let you slide, but
probably OG.
OG?
Yeah. I feel like that
OG
would put me asleep under the coconut trees. And
That's
I
right.
would just wait, hopefully, until somebody saves me, I guess.
Yeah. OG for the island. I like
Marathon OG specifically.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah,
the cut does matter when we're talking OG.
Yeah.
What's up, fam? Just want to take a second to shout out my sponsors over at Buck Mountain Cannabis Delivery. Single source flower, rosin, hash holes, and pre-rolls. All produced in the Sierra foothills of Nevada County. Always fresh depths and light assist direct from the farm. Their product is never more than 6 months old from harvest. Grown with passion and obsession to produce the best sun-grown cannabis possible. And if it's from Buck Mountain, you know it's smoking. Serving Grass Valley and Sacramento. Go check out the menu at buckmountaincannabis.com. Tell them Good Pizza sent you. If there was a strain you could bring back, what would that strain be? We going Romulan?
I mean, Dosey. I'd bring Dosey back.
Yeah.
I mean, Romulan, I feel like I would just be disappointed. Low-key in my mind, I'd get it back, and it's so old that I'd be like, this isn't that good.
Bro.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that like in the retired vault. But Dosey, I would bring back. I really mess with Dosey a lot.
What's your smoking weed law, whatever, you fill in the blank, you're a lawyer, you can make this, apply to you, pet peeve. What grinds your gears?
I mean, it doesn't grind my gears, but it makes me laugh. So my mom and dad, I call them like depression era smokers, because like my dad tells me stories about how he'd like drive into New York and like drive around the block a couple times, find a guy, get a 4-finger lid,
Yeah,
and
4-finger lids, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And smoke that, and like they'd come from an era of like finding weed was like a rarity,
It's an adventure.
Yeah, like
kidding me?
or like you'd pay for weed and your plug would hit you back in like 3 weeks when you got it, right? Like that's nothing I've ever had to deal with. If I need weed, I go to the dispensary. Like it's always available. And so whenever they smoke, and no matter how many times I tell them, whenever they smoke, they hold it in for like 20 seconds. I'm like, you don't need to, like, first of all, your lungs don't work that way. Like the THC is gone already. You're
3
just
seconds.
Like, you're just like losing, brain cells or whatever. So it doesn't like grind my gears, but just like they're not getting.
They can't help it, bro.
No. So I call them depression era smokers because it's like
funny.
They can never like, they never know when the next hit's gonna be, so they then just hold it in.
Yeah. Or they'll hit it, right? And they'll do a little off the side. That's the most gangster hippie shit you can ever do in my cipher, bro. I'm like, oh yeah, you was OG.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you. Favorite place to smoke?
I mean, now I'm pretty basic, just in my house, but I mean, nothing beats like getting in the car with your boys, finding a location where you think you're good, like sparking it up, getting that hot box in. I mean, some of the fondest memories are just like trying to smoke as many blunts as possible till you can't stand it, open up, get out, and just watch the smoke, billow out. Yeah. Just so many great conversations and experiences just being in the car smoking. Nothing's beating that for me.
There's nothing like that. Yeah. Damn, the good old fucking days, huh?
Yeah.
Favorite song to blaze to while you're in the car smoking as many blunts as you can with the homies? What's on the tunes? If you could pick a track.
Always Lil Wayne. 30
Lil
Minutes to
Weeze?
New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah, we could
Tight.
go on. I mean,
Tight.
yeah, Lil Wayne always.
All right. Maybe one of the Drought mixtapes. Maybe Carter 3.
Carter 3 is not bad. I mean, anything that man put out to me is pretty much fire. The Rock album was a little bit whatever, but you know, the man's earned his
He earned his
ability to
stripes.
do whatever. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Very curious on this one, buddy. What's your favorite stoner food? Because this guy, if y'all don't know about this guy's the fucking snack master Flash. He got all the snacks.
I mean, it's obviously
He puts them together.
It's obviously desserts. If I had to like whittle it down to my go-to dessert, it's definitely cereal with ice cream. I mean, just the combo. So you get a bowl of cereal, doesn't really matter. Milk. I also use Fairlife chocolate milk just to throw in there, give it a little more protein.
Okay.
Couple scoops of ice cream, and as you're eating it, the ice cream just slowly melts into the milk, so it becomes like a milkshake too at the end. So that's my pretty much a go-to. You know,
I've never
PB and
tried
J
that.
with some cinnamon toast in there is pretty good. Get a little crunch in there. If I had to pick one, it would be the ice cream and cereal because it just
I like
it's
that.
everything.
I've never done that. I'm gonna give
Dude,
that a shot.
the-
What
think of-
cereal you fucking with in that combo?
In that combo, like cinnamon toast crunch and
Okay.
like Moose Tracks vanilla ice cream, something
Fire.
like that goes fucking hard.
Solid.
Goes hard.
Solid,
But honestly,
bro.
I've been eating a lot of s'mores cereal by Post.
Okay. What's that about?
It's basically graham it's graham cracker, graham crackers mixed with Cocoa Puffs, mixed with like the marshmallows from Lucky Charms, all in one.
Goddamn.
I eat probably a box every 3 days or so.
Fuck.
I've been trying to cut back a little bit. That's why you haven't
Yeah,
seen me
dude.
post a lot. I'm trying to get in
Yeah, you
my
gotta take it
fit boy
easy.
stage, but
Yeah.
you know, watch the cholesterol and all that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I'm gonna try to post more. You know what I wanted to do, and maybe this is a good place to start. I wanted to start creating unique desserts for different people in the space. Just like having you like give me your 3 favorite desserts, and I'll make a fucking little
Dessert,
combination
yeah.
for you. You know,
That's cool. That's cool.
but yeah, it's hard eating like that though every day. You know?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I've actually been. I'm pretty good, but my girl, she doesn't smoke a lot. So now when she smokes, it's like her first time. So she's in there eating fucking pizzas and
Going
ice
nuts.
creams, and I'm like, well, I got to eat some now too. So
Yeah.
you know, it kind of brings me back a little bit. So
For sure. Well, we're gonna take it one step further, Chris. What is your middle of the night? You're cruising through the kitchen. You see it on the counter. You're a scumbag, and you know it. You're taking that whole fucking thing down. Guilty pleasure. Go.
honestly, my guilty pleasure is like mixing stuff. And I know you've seen my Instagram.
Yeah,
It's like-
bro.
so I
It's
don't.
very creative.
I
I've
don't-
never thought of any of these things.
I don't like doing the shopping because like I like getting high, just like opening up the fridge, seeing what's in there, opening up the cabinet, seeing what's in there, and just putting it together. So, you know, cereal is my go-to all the time.
It
Like,
can still be that.
like cereal,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
cereal can go down any time of the day. But
Yeah.
you know, take some cereal, maybe heat up a donut. You could break that donut up, throw it in the cereal. I mean, you know, I could come up with ideas
Wow.
all day for
Wow.
you know. The air fryer really changed the game too.
Maybe freestyling shit.
Yeah, I'm
love
thinking
it.
about it now. I'm like, damn, you know, we got that limoncello cake in there. Pour a
feel
little
me?
milk in there.
Cut up the cannoli. You know what I mean? We could whip that thing together, bust it down. You, me, and Edgar over here. You know what I mean? It'd be
Might
cool.
chop it up, put it in the middle of a PB&J for
You know?
lunchtime a little bit.
Well, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, how you doing? Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro. If you could go back to one day to change in your past, what would it be?
Well, that's a tough one, man.
Yeah,
You
see,
should
we went deep. Sorry.
pre-given me these ones.
Sorry, dog.
What's tough
went
is
deep.
that like I'm so in love with my life and where I'm at right now. Like it's like the butterfly effect. You change one thing, like who knows where
know.
I would
It's
be.
a trick question, bro.
Can we come back to that one? You got more questions for me?
We sure can, sir.
Okay.
We sure
That's
can.
a good question,
If
though.
you could smoke with two people, one dead, one alive, who would they be?
Damn, you really should have given me. These are like questions I got to think
Sorry,
about.
dog. Sorry,
Especially
bro.
being a lawyer too. It's like
Listen,
every answer I'm like,
Typically, you get the email, but we did this on the fly.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't get the welcome. He didn't get the welcome email, folks.
no.
Sorry.
okay, one alive. Okay.
Right from the hip, kid.
I feel like Jimi Hendrix would be really cool.
Ooh, I love that
Who's
answer.
dead? Who's alive? Maybe Donald Trump. I feel like that guy needs some weed. I feel like I could change him. You know, yeah. Like, get him to change his mind on a couple of things.
Okay, cool.
No, actually, no. I wouldn't want to smoke with him. I'd probably want to smoke with like Bobby Flay or something.
Oh,
it's just like a good chef, so he could just high as fuck
shit.
and be like, "Yo, get in there and do the dirt." You know,
you the first person in over 100 episodes that named a chef for the live person. That's a great idea.
I'm trying to eat.
While we're all smoking and shit, that's a fucking good idea.
Make a bomb ass 5-star meal personally for me.
Yeah, man. So, don't use their real name. Shout out your favorite plug from back in the day. Or make up a name for
myself.
Who took care of you? Yourself. He's the fucking.
I was feeding myself.
Hey, that's not a bad answer. So on June 16th, National Plug Day, get yourself something nice, man. Treat yourself.
Okay,
man.
I didn't know that's a national day. Who made that?
Yeah, I made it.
Okay,
nice.
Nice. We need more advertising for that then.
We do. We definitely do. So typically, I can't ask this question to everybody, but do you have any really cool like psychedelic stories for us, like shrooms, mushrooms, like you ate a little too much, shit got weird, any wild adventures you care to share with us? Or maybe we shouldn't talk about that because you're a lawyer.
No, I've done that. I've done
All
those.
right, send it, kid.
But some of it's like they were fun for me. I don't know how good they are from a story perspective.
Yeah, I don't know how I can explain this.
if they're all that good. So one was my birthday, and we all took acid, and we all decided we were gonna watch Horton Hears a Who.
Okay,
right?
How'd that go?
None of us knew what the movie was about.
Okay.
And so we went on a walk beforehand to kind of just like get into the vibe, go around, figure it out. And, we got into that mindset of like, man, what if we're just like a cell and like the earth is just like a cell in like a bigger being, right? Like we were just kind of like thinking about that stuff. And then we turn on this movie and that's what it's fucking about. Like literally none of us knew what this movie was about. So that was kind of like trippy for us because we were just like, oh my God, we were just fucking talking about this. But other than that, like, I don't know. I don't really have too many like crazy, just typical mushroom acid stories. DMT a couple times.
How was your DMT experience?
So I had a pen, and I read this book called The Spirit Molecule, which goes into the scientific testing that they did on people, where they injected people with DMT and like what they experienced and how they dealt with it and all that stuff. So I read that book first. And on the vape pen, it's kind of cheating because, as a vape, you can smoke as much as you want. And so I got to the point, I felt myself looking over the edge of like the ego death, and I couldn't like bring myself to smoke another one because I wasn't willing to go there. But part of me wishes I could like take a dab of it or something.
Yeah,
and,
you gotta dab it, bro.
Force myself to get into it.
Put it in a ball.
But soon, one of these days, maybe with Aaron Rodgers or something.
Yeah,
do some ayahuasca.
Yeah, that'd be cool. With Aaron Rodgers, he's hitting the ayahuasca for sure.
He's in that.
Well, if you could go back to the young you, the day you hopped off the porch or got in the game or whatever that means to you, what advice would you give yourself, young Chris?
Keep reading. I mean, honestly, like reading has helped me so much through life. Gives me different perspectives. I got to read contracts all day, so obviously having some sort of aptitude with that is good. But I think just being able to read it gives you, insight into very unique mindsets that aren't yourselves. And sometimes I can get caught up in just like how I think and how I think the world should be. And reading has always helped me kind of escape more than just like a TV show. I mean, TV shows you're kind of watching and in my mind analyzing it based on my own thoughts and perceptions. But when I'm reading it through someone else's eyes and how they're taking things. And that's always helped me kind of be able to connect maybe with more people coming from different parts of the world that, aren't necessarily me. So staying with reading has always been good for me.
Solid, bro. Solid. Well, it was a fun episode, my friend. Is there anything that you want to plug now? Where can people find you? And before you do that, who do you know that I should get on the show? Anybody you got in mind?
My dad.
Really?
He comes from a finance background. He was, he did all his, acids and mushrooms in the 60s, everything.
Right.
He was a VP of finance at Universal Studios when I started in cannabis, and he was like, what are you doing? Like, you went to law school and like, this is what you're doing?
Yeah.
But after like 6 months, he was like, oh, this is real. This is the shit. So I got him to come on. He was president of Sea Junkie for a little while. He worked as a chief operating officer for a couple of companies. He works with a group called Backcountry and Critical now. It's an old school company, but he has, when I said in the beginning of when I started this is like, you have the traditional market folk and that mindset, and you need that to like grow in this space and have the network you do, but you also need something of this like white collar group, right, to help you with the finances and the bookkeeping and the corporate stuff and kind of just developing your business into a more functional business. And so he has that like perfect meld of like being from, you know, cannabis and psychedelics and that stuff, but also like having a whole world of, you know, real world white collar experience that just is so invaluable. And so, I mean, every day I get to sit there and speak to him and talk about accounting and finances and operational things and how to like just make businesses better. And I learned so much from him, and it's been great for our like father-son relationship, because it went from being, you know, father-son to like peer-to-peer and being able to like work with him, which is great. But I mean, he does such a great job of explaining like difficult accounting concepts, tax structures, operational things. I mean, he's got a really interesting mindset, but he'll probably be the oldest person you've interviewed maybe.
That sounds really cool, and that could be a lot of value too.
Yeah, he'd be cool. He'd be cool, I think.
Nice. Solid,
what was
bro.
the other question?
Oh, where can people find you, man? How can people find you?
At Alien at Law. You know, just like most cannabis businesses, like we don't have a website, because if the banks find out that we do cannabis, they might shut us down as well. So we're kind of in that same territory of kind of being low key about it. But my Instagram, my phone number, 661-219-4245. My email, I guess, but I think Alien at Law is just, I'm on that. So just hit me up there.
That's how I found him.
Yeah.
Right on,
most
brother.
people.
Right on, man. Well, yo, thanks for coming through and sharing your story, brother, and sharing this very valuable information with our community, man. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, real quick, and if you want to hit me up and say you heard me on Good Pizza Podcast, I'll give you a free consultation, no charges, it's all good. And thank you for having me.
Nice, man. Appreciate that, bro. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Hell yeah. You already know, man. Hit up Chris if you have any legal issues, questions. Holler at my boy, Chris Hickok, Alien at Law, Good Pizza. Thank you all my Patreons for supporting the show, man. I appreciate y'all, man. Thanks for getting us over 100 episodes. This is crazy. I can't believe we're in season 2, man. Appreciate all the love and the support, man. Peace, love, good pizza. We up out of here.